Namaste, welcome to Satsang this evening here in the UK. So Satsang is for the realization of what we actually are. It's a school of sorts for the recognition of what's actually true and permanent about us, because there isn't really anywhere else to learn this. And learning what we authentically are is really more of a process of unlearning about what we are not, or forgetting, moving away from, taking our focus away and onto what is real. Because we've had this idea for a very long time, as old as time itself, this idea that we are a separate person, that we are just this body and mind, and that we're moving around in time and space, and that we were born on a certain day, that we live a certain number of years, and then we're going to die at a particular point. And so the purpose of satsang is to come to the realization that we are actually the great space of being in which all of these body and minds are moving around and doing whatever they're doing. We are that space in which of consciousness, in which all of this manifestation is arising, that we are at least as big as the universe, and that there's only one of us here. So in order to try to go deeper into an experiential understanding of that, I wanted to work with a question that came in, was sent in for satsang, which is a really good platform for having an experiential understanding. And I'm saying experiential as in not a thought process. It is something that is known intuitively, instinctively. It's seen, it's not thought about. It's a deep understanding, but not with our mind. And the result of that, an experiential realization of what we actually are, is that our body and mind becomes more relaxed and peaceful and quiet. And our life begins to reflect that in all of the ways that it can. So no matter how much we've seen what we really are or not, if you're brand new to satsang, you're very welcome. You're not necessarily behind everyone else if you're new. In fact, you might even have an advantage that everyone else doesn't if you're brand new to satsang, because you won't have any ideas about what satsang is, what awakening is. And that's a real gift, because we have to usually let go of those too. I know I did. So I wanted to read this question that came in, because it's a brilliant way to really look deeper. The question says, Dear Helen, my journey with you has been unfolding continuously in a profound way. Zooming out when I am stuck with very concrete beliefs is something which I never experienced before. My question is regarding zooming out into space and simultaneously being curious within. Not sure how I should combine the two. So I wish to be with the curiosity without losing track. It's a constant reminding and returning. How does one stay totally in the simplicity of silence? Always and ever grateful. Namaste. So how do I, because we've looked at in various forms of meditation that we've done in satsang, one of them has been zooming in and zooming out. And we'll practice this later. We'll go into a guided exploration. Zooming out from looking at phenomena, looking at objects, and noticing the field, the space of our being around the objects. And then at some points I've talked about having this deep curiosity, so that to move beyond ideas that we're stuck on, ideas and people and things that we're having challenges with in our life, things that seem to bring us away from our meditation, then we can approach those with curiosity, really coming at something with no ideas about what it is. So an example of this would be if I have a particular emotion that keeps popping up, then we can look at that with curiosity. Instead of going to that emotion, experiencing it through our mind, and then having to experience our ideas about the emotion, or a particular human being that we might have a challenge with, instead of meeting them with our thoughts, our ideas about them, we can meet them with curiosity. And it's a really profound, simple way to experience reality directly as it is. If I'm curious about something or someone, then I'm open. I'm not coming with any ideas. I'm empty in that moment of ideas about it. Doesn't mean my mind is empty. My mind can have all kinds of ideas, but I'm empty because I'd rather experience this thing as it actually is, or this human being as I actually are, rather than experiencing my ideas about this person. I have the same experience over and over again. So how do I combine the two? How do I notice the silence, the stillness, the consciousness? We've called it the field, the space, of that is our unmanifest eternal nature. And how do we be curious about the phenomena that we're having challenges with at the same time? Is there a way to combine those? I love this question because it's just profound. And as you've pointed to here, it's constant reminding and returning back to the silence, the stillness, the space of our being. So to answer this question, I want to take us deeper into what the space of our being really is. So we can do like an example. We'll do a little example, and then we'll go into a meditation, just to prove that this can be done at the same time. So wherever you are, wherever you're tuning into satsang, maybe if you're watching this after it's been recorded, you can start by just picking an object in the room that you're sitting in. It can be anything at all. It could be whatever device you're using to join this on. It could be your own hand. It could be anything at all. Probably, for the sake of clarity, it's best not to try with a thought at first, at least, a subtle object, but something you can see and perceive with your senses. And we're just going to notice the phenomenon. So here is my hand. And you're looking at whatever object you've chosen to use for this experiment. And as you're looking at the object with your eyes, can you notice that there's empty space all around the object? So my hand is solid, I can touch it, but all around it, behind it, in front of it, above it, below it, everything else is this empty nothingness space of consciousness, space of being. And it appears to be opposite to my hand, doesn't it? My hand is visible, tangible. I can even make a noise with it. But the space around it is silent, formless. It doesn't have any tangibility at all. It doesn't have any color. It doesn't have any characteristic that we can point to and say, yes, that is it. We can only say what it's not. It's not visible. It's not audible. It's not tangible. It doesn't have any quality at all. So we're using an object, a phenomenon, to point us back to the silent, invisible field that's everywhere. And you can zoom out a little bit, zoom out from the object to the space in which, noticing the space in which it's appearing. So if you're looking at the device that you're watching this on, can you notice the space around it? All around it. And can you notice that all the objects in the room that you're sitting in are also appearing inside this empty space. And even the room itself, we can say, if we zoom out even further, the room itself is inside the building that you're watching this in, wherever that is. All of that is inside some empty space. And if somehow we could suddenly move all of the manifestation, everything, including our bodies, away for a second, there would just be this big, vast, empty nothingness, which is currently occupied with all of this. So that's zooming out. So we zoom in out out of habit to phenomena. And then we're learning as a habit to zoom back out. So this is where this question is coming from. How do I stay zoomed out and be deeply curious at the same time? So if some thought comes up, some emotion comes up, or some person I meet in my life, and there's a big response inside, energetically, emotionally, some resistance, a pain in my body, something missing from my experience that I think I need, or whatever it is that's going on, how do I stay curious? To do this, I want to look at the space itself, this empty space. Is it really just empty space? We've said that, and you've pointed to in your question, you've also called it silence. And if we look at the space around the object that we've chosen, it's completely silent. It's incapable of making a sound, isn't it? In its unmanifest nothingness, totally silent. So just checking this out with me. And if you can't prove 100% inside yourself, it doesn't come with a deep conviction, that's okay. That just is going to show you where you need to ask and investigate more. It's also, we could call this stillness, couldn't we? Because it's not moving. My hand is moving through it, but it's not moving. Even if a strong wind blew through this room and blew all of the objects over, the space in which those objects are appearing would be unmoved. You can't push it anywhere. It's just is. And all these are just names for the same essential formlessness that we are. So we've said silence, consciousness, stillness, space, beingness. And we could call it a million more names. But the thing I want to really look at in this satsang is the way that the space, the stillness, the silence interacts with objects. So again, if we use the same object, what is the space of our being doing with the object? Can it change the object at all? Can the space around my hand change my hand at all? Or has this just formed exactly as it wanted to be, and the space has completely allowed that to happen? If we take the example of our whole body, our body is just appearing inside the empty space of consciousness. And consciousness is not able to do anything at all with the objects that are appearing in it, except allow them completely to be. So an object appears out of this unmanifest, infinite space of being, and it's completely allowed to form and exist. The nothingness that's all around us at all times has no capacity to destroy anything. It can only create. It can only allow. And what I particularly want to focus on is that the fact that the empty space of our being is totally allowing what is to be. So even if in our mind we have a lot of thoughts that how this moment is right now is not how it's supposed to be, Can the space of our being agree with that? Is it trying to change this moment at all? Let's check that out with me. Is the infinite space of being trying to rearrange the objects in this room? Could it? And I know it's a strange question to ask, but it's good to see that it literally cannot do anything other than completely allow what is. And if we take an inner example, if a thought appears in our head, can the empty space of being do anything about that? Does it need to? Does it want to? Is it trying to make your mind quiet? Is it trying to change anything at all, inside, outside? Even if you were to have some pain, physical pain in your body, some emotional pain, really noisy mind, would it be able to or want to change something? It's very passive in that way, isn't it? It's not able to do anything. It's simply here and it's inside. It is the essence of which all of these manifested forms are made of. Whether that's thoughts, emotions, our body itself, the chair that you're sitting on, the device that you're using, anything and everything that ever existed and will exist has emerged out of this nothingness and is made of it, and has somehow turned to look like somethingness. So this empty space of being is so in love with itself that it forms itself into these shapes so that it can explore itself. It wants to know what it's like to be a human being. To be a human being and think it's separate to everything else and everyone else. And then what's it like to be a chair? What's it like to be a dog? What's it like to be a cloud? What's it like to be a black hole? What's it like to be a speck of dust? What's it like to be a caterpillar? What's it like to be a human being that's realized it's not separate to anything at all? So it's exploring itself every which way it can. It is, in fact, deeply curious. Inside everything, the essence of everything, trying on all these different costumes, rearranging itself into all these shapes just to see what it's like. And of course, when it arranges itself into the shape of a human being, it's got the capacity to think, and it thinks and draws some erroneous conclusions about itself and then begins to suffer. But still, even then, the space, its unmanifest aspect, can't do anything about that, nor does it need to. So it's just watching these objects appear, last as long as they last, change their shape, change their age and all of that, and then disappear and disintegrate back into, or be recycled into something else. How do we be curious and notice the field? Well, they are really two ways of saying the same thing. If you become intensely curious about what something is, you'll find yourself feeling like the field, open, free, empty, desireless, peaceful, calm, joyful, free. And if you zoom out and focus on the empty space of being that's all around all the objects, including your own body, all around me right now is this empty space. This pure intelligence, pure sentience before form. You'll find, if you zoom out to notice that, you'll find that you begin to feel totally. At first, you'll just be a little bit relaxed, and then you'll be very content. Then you'll be deeply peaceful. Then you'll be totally joyful and falling in love. And then you'll be utterly in love with every single thing that exists, because you know what it is. Deeply curious about life, from this perspective? What is it like when I interact with myself when I'm appearing in this shape and this shape and this shape and this shape, knowing essentially what this is, that it's not what it looks like, not who it looks like, that this really isn't a thought. It is something very different, that my mind is totally empty of substance on its basic level, that it has no more substance than a bunch of clouds, and so does everything. Then you begin to become deeply curious. And curiosity is really just another word for falling in love with something, isn't it? If you fall in love with someone, you really just want to know everything you can about that person. Where do they like to go? What do they like to eat? What their favorite type of movies, and everything, absolutely everything you can find out about that person. And this is how the field is, the space of being. It's utterly, utterly in love with you, your body. It recognizes itself everywhere it looks, no matter what disguise it's wearing, and is deeply curious. It's just another word for love. Let's practice this now. You can do this meditation. We'll do a short meditation, either with your eyes open. If you want to, you can focus on an object. And as your eyes, so as I'm looking now at this laptop that I'm using, my eyes are looking at the screen, but I'm aware that there's space all around it that's zooming out. So if I keep my attention on the space around the laptop, my eyes are still looking at it, but I'm aware of the space around it. You might immediately begin to feel something happening in your body as you do that. Bringing attention to that which is not a thing, that which is invisible. If you want to do it with your eyes closed, you can. When a thought pops up, notice that thought, then notice the space in which it's happening. Or if it's easier, notice that thought's happening inside a body, which is happening inside the space of being. So just going to take a few moments, noticing an object, noticing the space around it. And it may seem, mind says, quite boring just to notice empty space. But let's try it anyway. Is it really boring when we do that? And we focus on the nothingness that is all around, in all places, at all times. How does that feel in your body when you're tuned into that which is not a form? Just taking a moment. And from time to time, your attention will be drawn back to some phenomenon, a sound outside, a thought inside, a sensation in your body. Just using that phenomenon, that thought, to notice the space in which it's appearing. So we don't have to keep our attention anywhere. We're just noticing that space. Whenever attention wanders back to some form, you can just zoom out again back to the spaciousness of being. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but you can know that it's here. It is the essence of everything So as we're noticing this, the space of our being, where you're actually being it, just noticing, just being aware, just existing as the space, which is open and free, allowing the forms to move whichever way they want to move. There is only allowing here. There is no changing anything. Your mind may like to think about the space of our being. It's okay. Just letting that happen. Whatever's going on in mind is going on. And using those thoughts to help us zoom back out to the space that they're happening in, the field of silence, stillness. As we are practicing like this, we are living as the space of being. Attention zooms in involuntarily to a sensation in the body, to an itch, to a sound, to a thought, an emotion, a deep state that comes over the body, confusion, whatever subtle form is arising. And you simply zoom back out by noticing the space that is appearing in. This space is deeply curious about life. This space cannot think about anything. It simply allows the mind to think. It has no ideas, no opinions. It has no likes or dislikes. It has no ability to change anything. It sees only millions, infinite numbers of forms, sculptures, moving, changing, all by themselves, coming and going, quickly like thoughts, slowly like planets. We're just being the space. If perhaps the space could speak, it might say, what is this thing in front of me? What is this form inside me? I'd like to meet it deeply. What is this thought? What is this sensation? What is it like to meet everything from here? Quiet and empty, open, curious, fresh. And again, if your attention has wandered back to some form, some object, whether that's inside or outside, just using that to allow yourself to zoom back out, noticing it's appearing inside the space of our being. This empty space that really isn't empty. It's full of love and curiosity, full of allowance, full of peace. Noticing that your mind and your body innately respond in kind, in tune to noticing the space. They begin to relax, they begin to slow down. And little by little, this just becomes a way of being. Our senses focus on the objects. My beingness focuses on the space, on itself. And they complement each other perfectly. In truth, they're not really different at all. This empty space of being doesn't have any edges, doesn't have any boundaries, doesn't have any shape, doesn't even stop where it meets an object. There's inside, outside, everywhere. Sometimes appearing as tangible forms, sometimes appearing as subtle forms like thoughts, sometimes appearing as emptiness, nothingness, formlessness. Everywhere, equally distributed. Sometimes looking like something, sometimes looking like nothing. So, in a few moments, we'll bring this experiment, this meditation to a close. And as we begin to move into the questions, answers, the sharings, See if you can keep your attention as much as possible on the space of being. Let's see if we can, as much as possible, move through the rest of our day, noticing this nothingness, this vast emptiness that is pure intelligence. So, if your eyes are closed and you want to open them, feel free to do so. You may want to have a stretch, move around. And I hope that you enjoyed that meditation experiment, as I've been calling it. That being the space of our being is being curious. And that being curious about something is being the space. That experientially they are one and the same. Perhaps it's only our mind that thinks that they're different. So, if anyone would like to ask a question or to share something or to ask for help, I'll take up to 5 questions. Okay, so we'll start with Christine. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I found it very deep. I noticed even before the meditation started, even though it's first thing in the morning, well, not too early, and I had been feeling quite wide awake, I started to feel really sleepy. And I don't normally do. So then when you mentioned relaxation, I thought, oh, that's it. I'm really relaxing.
Yeah.
So that was a good place to go into it from. I guess I'm having trouble formulating a question, but I really wanted to put my hand up and interact. I've just been noticing more lately that when I become aware of the space or awareness, that I'm noticing that it's already here.
Yeah.
Not that I'm contacting it again or it's contacting, that it was just already here and I've noticed it. And that feels like quite a shift for me. And noticing that the piece is still here. And then this morning I was listening to one of your satsangs while I was having my cup of tea, and it was one about love. And I guess that's something I feel like has been, my heart's been a bit closed in some ways. I have been quite defended. And there is some beliefs about being hurt.
Yeah.
Which I noticed or realized as I was listening was obviously coming from the ego. Because that's not
for us all, isn't it? We've all had experiences as a separate being of being hurt and feeling that we need to close our heart off. It's everybody's experience. It doesn't feel good, but there was a point also for me where I realized actually I'm really finding it hard to let all this love in. You know, it's
yes, and I think because exactly I feel peace quite often, but I don't feel love or joy. You know, that's quite rare. And so yeah, I guess I was just becoming really aware of that this morning, listening to that, exactly that, and that the fear is around ego love kind of thing, human love. This is kind of different, isn't it? This
Yeah, very
is,
different.
yeah. So the fear's there, but it's defending against the wrong thing in a way.
And that's
Kind
also okay. Our egoic sense of self, it can't really recognize that this isn't a love that you get from someone or give to someone even. It's just something that is, it's always here. It's just another word for that silence, isn't it, really?
yeah,
And it's okay, your mind will never really get that. And it might still, you need to be careful, don't go too far, you'll get hurt or something like that. But more and more I checked in and realized, as you said, there was a significant shift. It's always here. It's just that I've never noticed it. And now I'm starting to notice it more and more and more. I began to really trust it, whether it appeared as silence or love or peace or stillness or the space of being, as we're calling it in this satsang, that I can depend on it. In fact, it's the only thing I can depend on because it's always there. And it's not something that I've received or had to get, so it cannot be taken away. That becomes clear as you see it. It's always here. Whether I notice it or not is all that's changing, isn't it, really? So there's a letting go, then a relaxing of, but it might also help to question, okay, this is my beingness has shown up as peace so far. How else can it appear to me? What else can it appear as? That was a really nice way for me to explore. It began to show itself as joy, as silence, as a sense of emptiness, a sense of love. It's kind of showing a different face of itself. So it might be nice to explore like that if you feel a resonance with that. Or even just asking, what is love? Actually, I did that too. What is love? Because maybe I've only ever experienced a limited version of love. Nothing wrong with that, but is there another way to experience it?
Yes, I like those questions.
It's just as we're letting go thoughts, we might only, and I say only, be able to feel it as peace. And that's profound in itself. But then as we let go of more and more, it will, it becomes a deep and rich joy. Because when in an absence of fear, there is joy. There's nothing to be afraid of, very literally. And in the absence of any sort of unworthiness or anything like that, it might not be totally gone yet, that's okay. Then it's bound to be this deep and rich love for yourself. If you feel whole and complete, knowing your essence is this love, then you're going to have this deep self-love, aren't you, and respect that the mind can't really ever experience.
Yes, it's coming from such a different place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can sense it now. I can. Yeah.
For me, it was
But
nice to really. After a while, I realized that I never really know what it is. Sometimes it will be more like peace or a deep silence. Sometimes it's more overflowing joy where I just can't stop laughing and having a giggle. And then sometimes it's, I just want to be really quiet and still. And then sometimes it's just deep, deep love where I could cry looking at the leaves, the colors of the leaves, or the snowflakes falling, or a little child having fun, or anything, it's always going to be showing itself to us in a different way.
beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to sit with that.
Enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don?
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Good.
I enjoyed meeting you all in the States. That was good.
It's nice having hugs, wasn't it? Feels like a while ago now.
Yeah, but yesterday too. So infinite space,
Yes.
you know. Um, so I'm still struggling with my parents. And they would probably say they're struggling with me, and that I'm, and my dad has always prided himself on being the logical one, but he can't, or he chooses not to anymore. And I was just explaining to my mom that I needed to make some adjustments in my finances. And I don't think I explained to her that I want to move to Europe, but I was telling her I was going to rent my house out and explore some different situations where I want to live. And also just for income standpoint. And I've been trying to do in the oneness, and watch some of your videos, and that cause working with my finances from a non-dual perspective, not trying to solve it from a duality. And so I thought, well, that makes the most sense. And at the same time, my parents are they turned 92 and 89 last week. And my father just gets really angry when I say that I need to do X. But I suggested, he got really frustrated. He said, what do you want? And I said, well, I want you to go to a financial planner and let me know what you want. And he's just really angry. He's convinced that he can still handle his finances, and he's done a good job so far, and he doesn't want to pay anybody to do that. And he's got enough money that it's shouldn't be an issue for him to do that. But I think it's about control. But short of that, I don't know I can't do anything, because I don't really know what, they want me here all the time, but they don't want to tell me what my role is. And, he escalated, and I escalated in response, and, got further, but, I still feel a lot of unconditional love for him and my mom and my brother. And I'm like, I'm okay with whatever happens. Or I say I am. But, I also want to be in a situation where I, be responsible for them, but they've made a lot of decisions where they don't allow me to make decisions.
Is that really something that you just have to kind of endure? Can anyone really stop you from making a decision?
No.
And can you hear the separation in what you said, that they are stopping you from doing something?
Well, that would be a really separate, and that would be an erroneous statement on the part of my consciousness.
So what does this look like when you remember that they are not actually separate to you, that they're reflecting back to you ideas perhaps inside you that are not totally conscious of? So you want something from them, it doesn't seem to want to happen. There's frustration or whatever emotions coming up, a sense of being limited, not being able to do what you want. That would be where I'd put your attention. You do what you need to do with the financial thing, obviously, but if you're feeling limited inside, can you get the result that you want in that situation? Absolutely not.
No.
The same rerun of the same experience. So if you look at inside, if it's really true that I'm everywhere and that there isn't another being here, what happens when I keep remembering that in this situation?
We just relax into doing, doing what's best for me, and giving them unconditional love, and, being.
Yeah. And in that, you're much more likely to get the result that you want from them, because you're not asking them to change in that moment, not needing anything from them. You're much more likely, ironically, to get it, because instinctively, when we feel someone trying to change us, we kind of resist that. As a species, we do that, don't we? But in that loving, open space of being, where they're free to be whatever they are in this moment, you can still want particular things in that, but you're not pushing and shoving each other energetically into a particular shape.
Right.
See how it unfolds when I just energetically leave it be and see.
Well, and at least my father accused me of asking for money from him, and I said, I didn't ask for any money, and my mom was there and she said, he didn't ask for anything. And so I was trying to keep it at that level of, you do what you want to do. But I did ask them,
with them, next time you go to see them or you speak to them on the phone or whatever, see if you can zoom out and notice the space around their bodies and see what happens. See what happens when you do that. Even if you're on the phone or off Zoom or something, or in the same room as them, it will work. You'll watch something amazing happen if you are being that space of consciousness. Because what you want for them is what they want too, but it can't come into being, well, there's this kind of backwards and forwards of, it's not a verbal demanding, is it? But it's I need you to change, and it's both sides are doing the same. I need you to be different than you are, and it just gets stuck in a deadlock. So Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's a bit sticky with relationships sometimes because we've been doing this for so long. We don't know that it's going on. So only when we feel some negative emotion do we realize. So try it out and see how it goes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
More space. I need more space. We need more space.
Just see what happens when you absolutely stop trying to change them. Mine says that's never going to work, but wonderful. Rune, is it Rune? Yeah. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I really appreciate your languaging around the creation. And of recent, my attention has been on attention a lot. And I was curious where attention sort of fits into this languaging or way of perceiving.
Yeah. It's really just another word for awareness, isn't it? We tend to, whatever our focus is on, we could say focus, we could say attention, we could say awareness. They'd all be kind of synonyms. We tend to use the word attention when we're talking about phenomena, usually. So my attention is on something.
Right.
Or my attention is here. When we're zooming out, our attention is on nothing in particular. Just it's an open way of holding our attention then, isn't it? It can either be on something or it can be open. But I don't really see any difference between that. We could call it awareness, consciousness.
It's no, I've been pondering it a lot, and to use a nerdy term, it feels like a vector in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I'm a complete word nerd, so I like nerdy things.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of naturally open. Our attention is open naturally in the natural state of being, not focused on
like
any.
Like a rest state, like not pointing anywhere.
Yeah, and we all naturally do that. I mean, we naturally zoom out as kids completely, and it actually costs us energy to pay attention to something because I've got to ignore everything else and focus on this, and that actually costs us. But we've got so used to doing that. That's just a real established habit now. And that's our go-to thing first, isn't it? So we just...
You might have fed my thinking mind an energy conservation strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's where the peace begins to come from, because it's an excess of energy that's available to us then when we're not paying attention to something. It's not costing us anything. You can kind of feel like when you just kind of in this more open way of having our attention, like you can be aware of something, or you can just be aware, which is being the awareness, being aware of nothingness. That's the same way of saying it.
Yeah, there's so much talk about our attention lately, and the commodization of attention and the value of attention and monetizing attention.
I loved what you said at the start, though. Your attention has been on attention. Like that's
Yes,
exciting.
I mean,
If somebody starts to wonder what attention is and where it comes from, that's
precisely.
really very exciting. And things really begin to speed up in your awakening then, don't they? Like, what is this faculty of attention? Where did it come from? What's behind it, if anything? You know, this it's exciting.
Pulls you off the cushion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Place to explore with it.
Yeah, I think it is largely an affirmation.
You've muted there. Muted. We missed the last bit of your sentence. There we go.
Apologize.
No, it's fine. Just repeat that last sentence again.
Thank you. Where was I?
You said it's
I'm sorry.
largely something. I don't know.
Oh dear. You know what? We'll leave it be. Maybe it wasn't important.
Okay, that's cool. Lovely to talk with you. You take care.
It's been a pleasure. Oh, I thank you for helping me sort of land the languaging in the paradigm. So my toying with my attention on attention can continue, and I appreciate the contribution. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sometimes different words have they might mean the same thing in the dictionary, but have a different energy and might open something up inside of us. Definitely. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Stephanie.
Hi, Helen. It's pretty
Hi.
amazing to talk to you.
Oh, thank you.
I have been practicing for about 12 years, and I've been able to really sit in the silence and experience that. And a lot of reactions have fallen away from me. You know, I react to things very differently than I used to, which is really wonderful. And but I have still at times when I'm really caught and really identified, I have this knot of fear and helplessness. And this may sound really stupid, but I sit in the silence and sometimes I get angry at it. And I see why are you just sitting there? This thing is happening, you know, like my son has a severe mental illness, and then I'm concerned about some other really difficult suffering that's going on in the world. And I just clench up around that. It's such a strange feeling to do that, to the silence, because there have been times when I'm in the silence and I just kind of feel dissolved into it. And I know that's me, but right now at this moment, I'm very caught. And it's like I'm going, you know, how do I let go? And how do I stop being mad at the silence for not doing something about this, some particular suffering? So that's my question.
So can you start by giving yourself a break? So when I'm caught up in my mind, when I'm really contracted, when I'm really suffering, can I, and you know, I remember being really, really angry at the silence. I mean, like yelling and having a real tantrum at some point.
Really?
Yeah, because my experience was very polarized. There'd be these deep, 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 beautiful states when I was meditating. And as you said, just the absence of anyone at all, and just this pure silence and stillness that was where everything was totally okay. Nothing could ever be wrong. And then the other seemingly opposite experience where there was a lot going wrong. And as much as I dipped into this silence, it didn't seem to change what was happening in the rest of my life. And that was pretty much the worst place of my awakening, because I get very frustrated, very angry, and felt very hopeless, as you said, I think, too. So you're not alone in that. So starting with forgiving yourself that that's going on, okay? So if you get angry, can you just get angry without, and of course your mind might say this, but we don't have to subscribe to the idea that you should not be getting angry. Of course, you'd rather be feeling peaceful and joyful. But if you're angry, can you just be angry without any attempt to change it at all when it happens? And when, you know, and that's something you can practice right now, even whatever you're feeling right now, can you just feel it? Can you just be it? You're doing absolutely amazing. Take a moment, it's totally okay. What is it like to just be here with me? We're just here together and we're safe, you and me. Whatever you're feeling, you don't have to like it, of course, but how does it feel to not, and I don't need you to tell me, don't worry, just to not try to change it? Can you give yourself permission to feel it?
I'm afraid it will never go away.
So just allowing that feeling too, okay? Let's see here, you and me. If you feel it, let's see if that's true, that it won't go away, okay? Of course you want it to go, but it hasn't worked at making it go by pushing it away, has it? That hasn't worked for any of us. So let's say for this time that we're talking here, we're just going to let it exist. We don't like it, maybe don't even want it, but can we just let it be? Just while we're talking here. And let's actually find out if it's true that it will stay here forever if we feel it properly, fully, as much as we can in this moment. Let's see what happens actually. Take your time. Something doesn't like the emotion, that's totally okay. Something would rather be blissful and joyful, of course.
I'm aware that something's really angry and it doesn't want to yield. It doesn't want.
It doesn't have to yield. It doesn't have to. We're going to let it be. Just finally meeting this thing with me here. Let's just meet this, you and me here together. We can do this together, can't we? It doesn't have to give in. We're not going to force it to do anything at all. We're just going to let it be whatever it is in your body. Your body can feel the fullness of the sensation of it as it moves around inside and changes whatever is going on. So just for some time, we're just going to let it be, whatever that is. We don't even need to know how to do that. We're just going to not try and change it. And whatever is kind of defended inside because it thinks we're going to try to make it go away, it can relax a little bit in that, because we're not going to even do that now. We're not going to make it leave. Doing really, really well. So what's happening as you just let it be?
Well, there is a little bit of a loosening when I heard you say we're not going to try to make it go away. It does, it doesn't want to be made.
Yeah, it's
It's
terrified
like,
of being made, isn't it? It's terrified.
yeah, very, very
So
terrified.
the
It
most
does.
loving thing we can do is say, it's okay. You are okay as you are. We don't need you to change. You can be inside my body for this time. We give you total permission to exist. We're not going to force you to do anything. This is like the space of being, isn't it? We're doing it can't change anything. It's just letting this be completely. And yes, there might be a small opening, a space, but that's not why we're doing it. We're just doing it because it's the kindest thing we can do right now for our body, for our emotions.
Yeah, it's really fighting, saying, don't trust her, don't listen.
It's okay. I don't need it to trust me. It's totally okay.
Feels really kind of, when I encounter it, it feels really crazy, and I hate myself. Kind of, yeah. Okay, I'll just let it be.
Allowing that feeling too. You're doing so well. Who you really are is big enough for all of this, and your body can actually feel this when we just let it happen. Yeah, to the best that you can. Taking as much time as you need here, because this is very important. There's some pain coming out here, isn't there? There's some very deep seated hurt, and everyone here is supporting you and loving you and encouraging you. This is awakening. This is being with what is here in the most loving way we can. Can you feel even something different that we're not trying to change? It may be just something slightly different to last time you felt it.
Yeah, the tears are different.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult for me to cry for the past 5 years.
Yeah. Because something inside is that there's like a very small, scared, angry, defended something inside us, isn't there? And it's terrified that the great space of our being is going to come and annihilate it or make it go or something. And all it really needs is the love of the space of being to say, it's okay that you're here. It's okay. It just needs your body to feel it. That's all it needs. And we can call that love. We can call it allowing, whatever. Just don't have to like it. It might be very intense in the sensation, but still we can be with it as much as we can. There's no absolute in that. Right now I'm doing the best I can, which is what you're doing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the best I can. It doesn't feel like I'm doing very good.
But you're doing amazing. So how has the sensation changed since it started? Is it beginning to move around a bit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of dropping down into my gut more.
Yeah. So when it's been resisted, it's kind of held as tight ball of energy deep inside. Yeah. And for me, it was stuck here and in my gut, kind of really. So as we're just letting it be, you might find it begins to loosen up a bit more like a liquid rather than a solid. Just able to move a bit. Just take a nice deep breath for me if you can. That's good. One more if you can. Just helping your body to just relax as you're breathing. How are you feeling now?
It feels more relaxed.
Good.
Yeah. It does.
So we haven't done anything amazing, have we? We didn't like it, we didn't want it, but we still just kind of let it be as much as we could. And this is coming up now. This is really important. The reason it's being felt right now is because you are already awakened enough to let this come up and go. It's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because now you no longer need to hold on to this. It's coming up to be felt and released. So it's because you're doing really well in your awakening that this is happening. Our mind says it's the opposite, right? I'm doing something wrong. Why hasn't this gone yet? All that stuff. So
Yeah.
can you feel it just needs to be felt and allowed and loved? It just needs space to exist. And then it can begin to dissipate and lighten. And for me, there was like intense shame, fear, anger, all in this kind of big ball of stuff.
Yes, yes.
And as I just let it be the best I could in any moment, sometimes that was not very much at all. Sometimes it was quite a lot. It would just begin to lighten into just fear, or then eventually just frustration, and it began to lighten in frequency and eventually back to peace. And your body can do that all by itself. Just need to kind of get out of the way. That process is what we're doing here. Do you feel that that's what's going on? Your body knows what to do with it innately.
It feels like there's some energy moving up and out. I mean, it's subtle, but there seems to be something, kind of a relaxed feeling moving up and out.
So instead of it being this kind of solid thing, it's beginning to move now up the chakra system through the meridians. And you don't need to know about any of that. It's just, you can feel it moving now. And energy is supposed to move, isn't it? It's where it's got stuck because we've been kind of holding it in one place. I don't really want to feel this because it's never going to go away. That idea is so resistant to what the energy wants to do, which is to move. So yeah. Amazing. Doing amazing. One more nice deep breath for me.
Thank you, Helen.
How are you feeling now?
Much.
You feeling better? A little better?
It feels looser.
Yeah.
It feels looser.
And it might come again in another few waves.
Yeah.
It probably won't be as intense next time it comes because you'll resist it less, because you'll kind of, it's just a new habit, a skill to learn to just let something exist, isn't it? We haven't really been taught how to do that ever, any of us. So yeah. And as it moves more, when it comes, it will move through quicker, it will change easier, and you begin to feel some peace, some contentment as it starts to move, or the body relaxes a little bit then in that. Yeah, wonderful. You've done so well there. Not easy to raise your hand when you feel like that, but you did, so well done.
Thanks everybody.
Okay, so last but not least is Saima.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how are you?
Depending on what time of the day, really. But yeah, there's a lot of feeling of unworthiness and fear going on right now with me. And it's when you're talking to Dawn, you mentioned something about the same pattern repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I've been noticing with me lately, but related with career or creativity and trying to make a living out of it.
Yeah.
And what's been happening is I'll focus on one thing, and eventually I start getting good at it. And then ideas of like, oh, maybe I could make a living out of this, and someone says something, and I start to pursue it, and then the protective or fearful side comes in and wants to just hold on and protect, and it changes the entire relationship with with this thing, and eventually it doesn't go well, and I stop, and like this feeling of fear and unworthiness kind of grows, and I don't do anything for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it starts in another avenue, whatever, accidentally, because I wasn't going for it.
You just stop resisting and try to do something else, and it just starts
Exactly.
happening again. Yeah.
And it starts happening again. And then one day, before I know it, it's big enough to be seen from the outside, and to have like ideas of like, you could do this or that. And then when that process starts, the same
Around
thing.
you go again. Yeah. And that is so frustrating, isn't it? Because we've all been there. It could be a different thing than career or work, whatever, but it goes on, doesn't it? So what if you just decided, I'm not going to, let's say it's painting, or it could be anything at all, right? It could be graphic design, anything. It could be making music, designing kitchens. It could be anything that we're talking about here. What if you said, I'm only going to ever do this because it's fun? Even if some years, months into the future, I've got lots of money coming in from people that want me to do this, I'm still going to make this my guiding principle, that it's just for the fun and the joy of it. And it happened, when we started to hold satsang years ago, and it started to get more in an organized way, the same thing happened to me. Okay, now I'm doing this because I want to help people wake up. I'm doing this because it'd be nice if I could pay my bills, and each and every time I had some other reason for doing it, it just fell apart, because suddenly it was a different energy that was coming from. And I had to learn that the only worthwhile reason for doing anything is for the joy of it, how it feels when I'm in that moment doing it. So right now, the only reason, my mind might say, well, you're doing this to help people, or to help them wake up, or recognize the truth, or whatever it is. The only reason I'm doing this is because it feels really good. And I've just, every time I pick up another reason, it doesn't happen anymore, but in the past, every time I picked up another reason, and then I would just begin to drop that, and notice it and drop it as soon as I could. Because if it's just having fun, there's a lightness in that, isn't there?
Mm.
There's an openness. It's just joyful to do this. This is what my consciousness, the consciousness, wants to do as me, or how it wants to express itself. And that's a very open energy, which tends to allow all the resources you need to come to do that. They're just like, whatever happens from this point on, I'm only going to do it because I want to, because it's fun, because it's joyful.
I was wondering if you could help me look into when the administration part comes in, how to look at that. Like, I'm doing this thing for fun by myself, and there's no registrations required. There's none of that. There's no agent. There's nothing. And then when that starts, what's the question there?
If I have to do something that doesn't feel joyful in that process, so, submitting my tax return or whatever it is, if I spend as little time as possible feeling bad and immediately come back to the joy as soon as I can I immediately come back into a higher state as quick as possible, either through doing the painting or whatever it is, or sitting in meditation, feeling joyful, contemplating, anything that makes you feel good. You do what you need to do, what you have to do that you don't enjoy, and then as quick as possible get that done, and then right back into a higher energy. And try to do that registration stuff when you're in a high place anyway, and you're feeling good. And then what you'll find is life will give you the circumstances to help you so that even that becomes joyful. Or you draw someone else to you that loves to do that kind of stuff, the stuff that you don't find so much fun. So it frees you up even more then to do more of this.
And I know it's the mind, but also when the images of like last time you pursued this, it didn't go well. What last time you pursued something like this, you know what happened?
Mm.
And I'm just wondering how to deal with that.
For me, you know me and questions, I love questions. I would
Mm.
just ask myself, am I having fun right now?
Mm.
Am I having fun right now? What's my reason for doing this? And just kind of stopping and checking in before I get on a satsang or launch Zoom. Where am I coming from with this? And obviously whatever the activity is for you, you can sort of stop and check in and see, why am I doing this? And if I find that some motivation has crept in there, some other motivation, I can just stop and sort of take a deep breath. And what if I just don't hinge anything else on it and just enjoy it the best I can? That question for me was a reset. Am I enjoying this actually?
Mm.
It just kind of brought me back to awareness of it.
I think it will help me unblock something right now.
Good.
Mhm.
It's a heavy burden, isn't it, too? Something that's fun and joyful, and then suddenly we're doing it to make money or to pay the bills or even to help people. That's a massive burden. Or, you know, I mean, of course we want to help people, but let's not do it for that reason. Let's do it because it's just what wants to happen here. And it's quite joyful in that, isn't it?
Mm.
And then all those other things will happen anyway. You'll end up helping lots of people, inspiring people, whatever. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good to chat with you. Okay. So that's a very nice place to leave it for today. Thank you for all your brave sharing, and thank you for being here and supporting everyone going through their process of awakening. Some very, very brave sharing especially. So thank you. Namaste.